Recent reports show that the U.S. birth rate dropped to an all-time low in 2023, a trend we've seen almost every year since 2007. In fact, the birth rate is nearly half of what it was back in 1965, when we had an entire generation, the baby boomers, named after babies. The fertility rate measures the average number of children a woman has. Back in 1965, that number was very close to 3. Simply put, the average woman was having close to 3 children. Last year, the U.S. birth rate was 1.62. Now, many of you intuitively understand why Americans are choosing to have less children. It's expensive. However, the steady decline in birth rates started to ring economist alarm bells. The baseline fertility rate to remember is 2.1. Populations need the average child per woman to be 2.1. This is considered the replacement rate because it's the average number of children a woman needs to have to replace herself with a daughter who survives to childbearing age. As previously stated, our birth rate has now fallen to 1.62, considerably lower than 2.1. Elon Musk has been quoted as saying it is the biggest danger civilization is facing. Here's why. Fewer births mean fewer workers, which can slow a country's economic growth. 2, it also means a smaller working age population to fund benefit programs like Social Security and Medicare. And 3, a lack of younger people could mean less innovation, less savings, and less tax revenue for the federal government. But not everyone is concerned. Leslie Root, a social demographer from Colorado State University, points out this data is just a slice in time where, quote, the older ones already had kids and the younger ones just aren't ready to start yet. Once the next generation starts building families, it should stabilize. This does make sense considering so many millennials are waiting longer to start families than the generation before them. Additionally, one cannot ignore immigration in this conversation. A fertility rate of 2.1 does not account for how immigrants add to the workforce and economic output. However, if we do find the fertility rate remains low across the globe for an extended period of time, economists have justifiable concerns. You don't have to look too far back into history to see the negative impacts from China's one-child policy. Facing social, economic, and environment issues from intense overpopulation issues in the late 70s, China issued a one-child policy. Believe it or not, that was not formally terminated until 2016. Restricting families to one child had pretty substantial negative impacts. Sure, it addressed the overpopulation issue just a little too well. It's estimated this policy prevented 400 million births. In addition to a potential labor shortage today, the aging population ballooned with fewer workers to support them. The policy also created an imbalance in gender, where there are about 3 to 4% more males than females. China is now on a course correction in implementing measures that support growing families. They offer cash and housing subsidies to families and tax deductions. The government has also invested in fertility treatments and centers and is improving parental leave and expanding affordable childcare. No doubt, our declining birth rate here in the U.S. is nowhere near as bad as China's history. However, this information may provide more context when you hear legislatures and the Economist advocating for tax cuts and additional government support for our growing families. That's it for this week. This is Jeannie, the 401k lady.